So now we're fucking obliterating games? The news that physical media, my beautiful game discs, are facing an extinction level event at the hands of these two hit me hard. I don't even buy most of my newer games physically, yet I'm still pissed at the removal of the choice. And man, I still feel dumb for pre-ordering GTA 6 digitally. This is a huge deal, and I gotta talk about it. I gotta talk about the disc crisis of 2026 and the foreseeable future. Yeah, man, this fucking sucks. Well, to start, what even is a disc? In its basic form, a disc is a physical storage medium. Simply, it is a physical object that holds data. The disc had started off as a place that a video game's entire data and code was held on. When it was put into your console, like your PS2 or even PC, the game was played directly from that disc. As years went on, about the Xbox 360 and PS3 era, that game data was now downloaded directly onto your hard drive from the disc. Years later, discs evolved to the modern version. They went from having all the game data and code stored onto it to now having just the base required data stored on it, while the rest is downloaded server side, like day one patches, updates, etc. Though a key part of a disc, get it, is it also acts as a physical key to play the game, giving access to anyone who has it. That could be you, your friend, or anyone else you wanted to let play the game that you own. Now here's the problem. Discs are shareable. Digital is not. Discs belong to whoever is physically holding it. Digital belongs to an account that is bound to. Simply, discs are owned. Digital is not. Just giving fair warning. This topic is going to get me heated. I know it already. If you thought RAM was bad, sorry. And now let's talk about the evil ones. The two big fucking companies that are attempting to take discs away completely. And it's not just the physical discs that they're attempting to take away, it is our ability to own our games. And their excuse of it being due to consumer preference or due to production costs is barely the tip of the iceberg. It is deeper than that. The true reason is actually darker and worse for gamers. That is a puny excuse that I believed myself until researching for this video. But let's start with the first evil one in this crisis. Sony. Sony made an unbelievable decision that shocked even me. Sony actually officially announced that by January 2028, they are discontinuing all new discs. Yes, just like that. They're literally eliminating all new discs for any games on their console. It doesn't matter if the game publisher or developer wants their game to be physical. If it is on PlayStation, it will not have a disc version for that console. But of course, by now, we all know this. We already saw the news, and we all knew the warning signs were there. But the problem is, discs versus digital went from our choice to being forced upon us as digital only. But believe it or not, PlayStation had actually been sneakily plotting this shit for years. And I'll prove it. We all knew digital games used to be for convenience. You didn't have to run a GameStop to pick up a game. Instead, you could just buy it and download it on your console. That's why in 2020, PlayStation gave gamers a choice of a PS5 with a disc drive or a cheaper alternative of a PS5 that was digital edition only. But this was the secret start to the scheme. After that, in 2023, Sony released a PS5 Slim with a detachable disc drive. No longer was it physically bound to the console. Now, it was an extra piece, an intentionally created separation of disc drive and console, a sever between the two. A disc drive was now a peripheral, like a mouse or keyboard. It was no longer in the console. Then, in 2024, they released a PS5 Pro without a disc drive, period. Zero disc drive. None at all. And now, they're doing the final part of their plan. 2028, no more discs. And here we all were, believing Sony suddenly made this huge out-of-nowhere blitzkrieg against discs. But in reality, they have been slowly phasing them out and revealing their plans for the last 3 years. But this is only the start of the crisis. Don't even get me started on what's going on with the storefronts. We all already know that GameStop, EB Games, etc. are all dying and going to get the blockbuster treatment. But physical stores closing is only part of the problem, since PlayStation is shutting down their PS3 digital store. Yes, they're closing their digital storefront. Digital. Announced by PlayStation themselves, PlayStation Store on PS3 and PS Vita will close in July 2027. A digital fucking store is closing. Digital. By July 2027, it is going to be impossible to purchase a video game on a PlayStation 3 digitally. They tried this bullshit back before in 2021, got caught, waited for this plan to be in action, then did it anyway after removing disc drives from their console. So not only did they decide to get rid of discs, but in the same breath they decided to prove why we need discs. And to top it all off, let's talk about the other evil one. Rockstar Games. Yeah, I'm calling you out too. Rockstar is seemingly trying to find a workaround between this physical and digital issue, and it is a ridiculously absurd solution. Apparently, the most anticipated game of all time will have a physical copy. Woohoo, that's great news. I would love to have the game I've been waiting 13 years for in physical possession, except it's an empty box. Yep. The box does not have a fucking disc. What the hell is going on? Well, to be fair, it has a paper with a code to download the game digitally. But Rockstar Games is actually doing this, and let me tell you, people are not happy. You know, I'll just print out the game art and put it in a box if you guys want to buy an empty box with cover art so bad. Though, the biggest question comes down to this, the title of this video. Why are they doing this? Sure, obviously for money, duh. But are they really willing to kill a whole section of media and piss off so many gamers just to save some money? Well, yeah, obviously. But they have a bigger goal too. The surface proxy motive is this. Since discs cost money to produce physically, it is despised by pretty much any big gaming company. And to be fair, the process of creating discs isn't that simple. and they do cost money to make. I mean, the compiled game code has to be burned onto a master disc. Then it has to be mass produced from such discs, thousands of copies with game art, cases, etc. That does cost money, so the companies knew they had to find a way to save money, and they did find one, which was to make players download code right into their machine. Digital, obviously. Less cost, more profit. But I'm here to tell you something, the hard truth they don't want you to know. The hard truth is, it's not expensive to print discs. Nope. It's really not, and I have the receipts to prove it. According to one industry estimate cited by GameRant, manufacturing and shipping a $70 physical game costs around $3.50 per copy. Is $3.50 why they're ending discs? Hell no. I mean, put two and two together. If it was that expensive to manufacture the discs and boxes, why would Rockstar still be creating the boxes? So if it's not expensive to produce discs, why are these corporations really doing this? It was never really the pressing cost of the discs. It's that the digital market kills the used market. They want to end the used market permanently. The Godfather, yeah. No used copies equals no price competition, which equals full price forever, plus no retailer cut. The middleman is cut out and used games are made non-existent. Each sale from a game being passed around as used, the creator of the game does not get any chunk of it. They get the original sale and that's it. So the companies realized this and decided that the used market had to be eradicated. GameStop being in the crossfire. Here's a great example. The other day, I was browsing around GameStop for research in the used game market for this video, and I ran into a pre-owned copy of God of War Ragnarok for $34.99. The same God of War that is still $70 on the PS Store. This is why they want the used market gone. Exactly that. They want every sale at full price. Every person needs to rent their own copy for full price. Since we now know digital is not owning, they can take it down at any point, like the PS3 store. They want a monopoly and us gamers to not have a choice. It's either pay $70 a PlayStation for the fucking 4-year-old game or just don't play it at all. But us gamers are getting screwed for real. We're going to face more costs than just needing to always pay full price for games. Yes, as I just said before, GameStop and aftermarket sales are no longer going to be possible for new games. We are forced to use online game stores where pricing remains outrageous. Example being the PSN store still charging like $70 for God of War when a pre-owned costs way less. Then there's offline access. To be fair, most downloaded single-player games can still work offline once they're installed and properly activated. I don't want to pretend every digital game dies the second your Wi-Fi goes out, but digital access can still depend on a chain of invisible systems. Your account, license checks, authentication servers, or the game's own online servers. Staying at a hotel? Internet goes out? PlayStation servers have another bad day? If the game needs one of those systems to verify that you're allowed to play, the game sitting on your hard drive can suddenly become useless, unplayable. A disc isn't magic. An always online game could still go down whether you own it physically or digitally. But with a complete offline capable game, the disc removes at least one major point of failure. You don't need the storefront's permission to prove you own it. You want your friend to try out a new game before they commit to buying it? Nope. Sharing with friends is done, unless you want to manage an entire family sharing account. I mean, I remember back when I was younger, if my friend got a game on his 360 that was pretty cool, he'd literally bring the disc over to my house, we'd play it on my console, and I'd hold onto the game to try out until I was done with it. That is no longer an option. Unless, like I said, you give away information and such by family sharing. But even that restricts you from what games you can play. But I want to be fair, and with my research, I do like to deep dive into both sides of the story. And there is a reality in the digital argument. According to Sony's own numbers, 85% of full game sales on PS4 and PS5 were digital in their most recent quarter, showing that most gamers actually do prefer digital. 85% of them, apparently, me included. But buying digital does not mean people want physical games eliminated. A recent YouGov survey showed that 57% of gamers oppose companies ending physical releases, and even 47% of gamers who personally prefer digital still oppose getting rid of the option. Once again, like myself, which is exactly my point. We can choose digital without consenting to digital only. I usually prefer to buy digital for my own convenience, unless it's a game I want to collect the case or box art of. But even with that does not mean I should lose the choice. That does not mean I should be permanently giving up my rights to owning my bought software just for a license to use. I'm spending my money on the software, I should own it. What if I did decide I wanted the physical disc for some game? And honestly, sometimes I do. But now I have no choice, and neither does anyone on PlayStation. Though, let me once again be fair to both sides, and you already know I'm a fiend for pros and cons lists, so let's compare the two. Alright, let's start off with physical. Physical pros. Ownership and transferability. The disc is an actual object that you possess. You could sell it, trade it, lend it to a friend, or give it to your little sibling. It doesn't remain permanently attached to your account. Price competition. A physical game could be sold by GameStop, Walmart, eBay, some random garage sale, or the previous owner. That used market gives you options beyond whatever price the official console store decides to charge. Less platform dependence. For games that have a version completely on the disc and don't require an online server, the disc can keep installing and launching the game, even after the original storefront disappears. It's collectible. You get the case, the cover art, collector's editions, midnight releases, and an actual shelf showing the games you've played. It makes gaming feel like an actual physical hobby instead of just a folder of app icons. Next up, the cons. Discs can be damaged, lost, or stolen. The fact that I can snap my game in half proves I own it, but also means I no longer have a functioning game. Scratches and damages can make a purchased game unplayable. Physical games are less convenient. You need a disk drive, somewhere to store everything. You may even need multiple discs for big games, and you have to go somewhere to buy it, either a video game store or a garage sale. The disc isn't always the complete game anymore. Some releases still require enormous downloads, day one patches, or an active online server. A physical copy does not automatically guarantee that a game will function forever. Physical copies can become scarce. Once a game goes out of print, prices can increase like crazy, especially for older games. Copies can become difficult to find, and you're stuck hunting through resale listings for a decent price, thrift stores, retro game stores, and some of these prices are crazy. Now let's check out digital. Pros. The most obvious one, convenience. Put in your card, press buy, download the game, and never leave your house. No store, no shipping, and no disc swapping. Instant access. You can pre-order and preload a game, then play it the second it releases, instead of waiting for a package or a store to open. There is nothing physical to damage or store. Your entire library can sit on the console or account without taking over an entire wall, and no scratch disc can suddenly ruin your night. Digital sales and subscriptions can be genuinely excellent. Digital games are not always more expensive. Store sales, bundles, free monthly games, and subscriptions can occasionally provide some absurdly cheap ways to play, especially on PC via Steam. I mean, that's the reason why I have hundreds of games in my Steam that I've never even played. Now, some cons. There's practically zero resale value. Once you buy a digital console game, you usually cannot sell it, trade it, or recover any of that money afterward. Sharing is controlled by the platform. Digital sharing systems exist, yes, but instead of simply handing your friend the game, you need designated consoles, account settings, family groups, restrictions, and sometimes even time limits. Your access is tied to an account and license. The button may say buy, but what you often receive is a license governed by the platform's terms. Your access can depend on maintaining the account, the DRM system, and the platform itself. The storefront controls availability and pricing. The game can go on sale, but only when the publisher or platform chooses, and if it gets delisted, new customers lose the option to purchase it completely. So in the end, it comes down to a simple question: convenience or ownership? And obviously, digital wins convenience, easily, but physical wins pretty much everywhere else, from transferability, competition, collecting, and actual control over the copy that you purchased with your own money. The problem isn't that digital games exist. The problem is that companies are deciding that we no longer deserve the choice. And I know, this all sounds incredibly doom and gloom. Sorry, but believe it or not, physical games may not be completely screwed yet. Because while companies are moving towards an all-digital future, gamers are not nearly as united behind that future as their purchasing habits make it seem. You can prefer digital, but you can still believe other people deserve the right to buy a disc. And physical media doesn't need to become the dominant format again to survive. I mean, look at vinyl. Streaming completely dominates music, but vinyl still generated more than $1 billion in the United States last year. It came back not because it was more convenient, but because enough people valued collecting it, owning it, and physically holding the music they loved. The same type of market already exists for games. Companies like Limited Run Games continue releasing physical editions of games that larger publishers might have left digital only, built specifically around collectors and preservation. Though that doesn't replace every game Sony stops printing, but it proves that physical releases can still survive as a smaller, dedicated market, so long as people continue buying them. And then there is a Stop Killing Games movement. Its European initiative collected 1,294,188 verified signatures, forcing the European Commission to formally respond, and the European Parliament to publicly debate what happens when publishers permanently disable games people paid for. Now, it did not immediately get the law supporters wanted. The Commission stopped short of requiring every discontinued game to remain playable, but it did commit to bringing game companies and consumer advocates together to develop rules for how games should be handled at the end of their lives. This is not a complete victory, but almost 1.3 million people forcing an entire government body to respond, that's definitely not a failure either. So no, we probably aren't returning to the Xbox 360 era, where every game sat inside a plastic box and GameStop was somehow on every street corner. The realistic way out is smaller. Keep physical releases commercially alive, support companies that still produce them, demand protections for the games that are sold digitally, and make eliminating physical choice more expensive in money, backlash, and regulation than keeping it. Physical gaming does not need to defeat digital, it just needs to survive it. To make a long story in 13 minutes short, disc costs companies money. Digital gives those companies control. Used copies create competition, accounts are replacing physical possession, Sony is killing all new PlayStation discs starting in 2028, Rockstar put a download code inside an empty box, and gamers are finally realizing what convenience can cost us. I usually buy my games digitally, but I still want the right not to. Let me know in the comments the craziest price difference you've seen between a used copy and a digital copy. Mine was NBA 2K25, $7.99 pre-owned, and still $60 digitally. As always, every source is labeled in the description, and subscribe for more necessarily passionate and pissed, heavily sourced tech and gaming deep dives. I still can't believe I pre-ordered GTA 6 digitally.